So you've been exploring the wastes for some time and seem to have lost track of time. As you take a look at your wrist-mounted Pip-Boy, you realize that your Geiger counter has started to beep. You're accumulating radiation, and fast. In a bid to maintain your own life, you take a peek into your satchel and find some pills. RadX, the label reads. You down a few and start to feel a bit better. You also find some IV bags filled with an orangish liquid. It's RadAway. You plan to take the chem later to tone down your rad levels. But have you ever wondered how these chems actually work? And are there any real-life counterparts? So today let's find out. What exactly are RadAway and Rad-X? In a world where just about everything is trying to kill you, it's important to be able to mitigate threats wherever possible. As radiation is an ever-present hazard within Fallout's many wastelands, it's crucial that one does their best to lower their risk of exposure. Fallout's radiation scrubbing chem, RadAway, is the perfect solution for those times when avoiding dangerous gamma rays is not possible. Within the game, RadAway is often depicted as a brownish-orangish liquid held within a medical IV bag. RadAway serves the critical purpose of scrubbing radiation from the human body. When a wastelander finds themselves under the effects of radiation poisoning, it's crucial that they visit a doctor so that they can administer the chem, or if they're a handy wastelander, they could always do it themselves. Using the IV bag, a catheter, and a needle, RadAway is set up similarly to any other sort of transfusion. The RadAway enters your bloodstream and interacts with the radioactive elements within your system. The chem then works to neutralize and flush out these harmful particles, providing relief and restoring the survivor back to health, or as healthy as any wastelander could be. The actual mechanics behind RadAway is quite genius. The description for the chem within the first two Fallout games notes that RadAway is a chemical solution which bonds with radioactive particles and passes them through your system. And how does it pass harmful radiation through your system? Well, why not send it through your body's natural filter, your urinary tract? Both Henry Kasdan in Fallout 3 and the irradiated Charlie from Fallout 2 note that RadAway gives them the runs. Based on these two testimonies, it would seem that RadAway also serves as a potent diuretic, promoting the excretion of water from the body. It's quite genius, no? RadAway enters the system, bonds with all the bad stuff, and then all that radioactive crap comes out the other end. Literally. But what if I told you that something like RadAway exists in real life? Sort of. Reddit user Shaka1277 posted a beautiful write-up about RadAway and Rad-X on the Fallout lore subreddit 8 or so years ago. Within the post, they documented their hypothesis for what both radiation chems could be using chemical components and other medicines that are used and found in our own world. Now, while we don't have any sort of orange IV drip that'll scrub any exposed bloke from their radioactive woes, we do have multiple medications to treat exposure to radioactive elements after the fact. The first and maybe most popular is known as ferric hexacyanoferrate, or more commonly, Prussian blue. While Prussian blue was first synthesized by man for use as a blue pigment for painters, artists, and tailors, it has since taken on and has been used in other applications, one being medicinal in nature. Prussian blue was found to be effective at treating radioactive cesium and thallium poisoning. Cesium-137 is a common radioactive isotope of cesium. It is a product of nuclear fission between uranium-235 and other isotopes. Now, what Prussian blue does to cesium found in the body might sound quite familiar. Taken orally, the Prussian blue goes through an ion exchange with the cesium or thallium, essentially trapping the harmful chemical isotopes within its crystalline lattice. This stops the radioactive elements from being absorbed by your intestines. With nowhere else to go, the trapped toxic elements come out the other end. Prussian blue was actually used to treat the contaminated victims of the Goiânia incident in Brazil. 36 years ago, on September 13, 1987, an unsecured radiotherapy source was stolen from an abandoned hospital in the city of Goiânia. The stolen canister contained 93 grams of highly radioactive cesium chloride. Following the theft, dismantling, and subsequent selling of the parts, a total of 4 people died, with 249 having been found to be contaminated. During the cleanup of this disaster, those contaminated were administered Prussian blue. But it's not only a pigment-turned-radiation medicine that is used to treat radiation poisoning. No, there's at least one more. For example, one without a cool name like Prussian blue is diethylene triamine pentaacetate, or DTPA. Similar to Prussian blue, DTPA bonds with the radioactive elements to help rid the body of contaminants. Instead of being most effective against thallium and cesium isotopes, however, DTPA is best used to treat against other radioactive metals like plutonium, americium, and curium. Once grouped up and connected, the harmful elements are able to be flushed through your body. Similar to RadAway, DTPA can be dripped into one's vein through an IV bag, though other ways of receiving DTPA can be through injection or an inhaled mist. So don't be too surprised when you find a RadAway inhaler in the next Fallout game. Now, after mentioning both medicines that speed up the process of removing harmful radioactive elements from your body, Shaka's post goes on to theorize that RadAway is a chemical solution composed of both Prussian blue and diethylene triamine pentaacetate. Combining both, along with some antibiotics, electrolytes, and a medicine that promotes the growth of white blood cells, we might discover the secret behind the ultimate cure for radiation sickness: RadAway. While this amalgamated superchem may not work as a one-stop shop for all radiation exposure purposes like RadAway does, it's possible that someone exposed to harmful radioactive isotopes will end up having to take multiple medicines and prescriptions. While we don't exactly have a RadAway in real life, we might just have the components available to make something like it. Though the reality is that the truly best practice for preventing radiation poisoning is to limit your exposure to it from the start. PPE is your friend. So we've removed the radiation from our bodies, but what about future incidents where you might wind up plunging yourself into a radioactive sea? What are some preventative measures to take before venturing into the irradiated wastes? Well, for those cases, we have RadX. RadX is a powerful anti-radiation medicine that boosts the user's natural immunity to radiation. While unable to prevent irradiated materials from entering one's body, it does greatly reduce the effects of radiation. Within the game, RadX is often depicted as either a Dr. Mario-type pill or a reddish pill bottle. Acting as a pivotal chem for any wasteland scavenger, RadX is not a cure for existing radiation, but rather a proactive measure to fortify the body's natural defenses against it. When a wastelander anticipates exposure to radiation, whether through the exploration of contaminated areas or encounters with radioactive mutants and beasts, downing a RadX pill becomes a wise choice. Unlike RadAway, the actual mechanics behind the mighty pill remain a point of speculation within the lore of the game. No one in the games really makes a point to explain how it works, and the survival guides merely explain that RadX is a radiation prophylactic, a preventative medication. However, with that being said, what if I told you that something like RadX exists in real life? Again, sort of. While there doesn't exist a type of multivitamin capsule that directly boosts your body's immunity to radiation, there is at least one real-life pill that protects one real-life part of your body from one real-life type of radioactive isotope, and that is potassium iodide, or Ki. Iodine is an essential mineral nutrient required for the creation of thyroid hormones. According to Wikipedia, iodine deficiency affects about 2 billion people and is the leading preventable cause of intellectual disabilities, so it's pretty important for human health. However, there exists quite a few isotopes of iodine that are radioactive. As such, it's wise to avoid intaking these unstable radioactive isotopes. The good news is that the only naturally occurring iodine isotope is coincidentally the only one that is not radioactive, iodine-127. Though iodine-131, for example, is a common product of nuclear fission and is therefore present in high levels where there is radioactive fallout, exposure to harmful iodine can lead to radiogenic thyroid cancer later in life. One place where iodine-131 was widespread was in the aftermath of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Following the explosion of the No. 4 reactor of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, dangerous fission products were thrown into the air. This, of course, included iodine-131. Despite its relatively short half-life, iodine-131 is extremely volatile, and it ended up being the most widespread of the most harmful radioactive isotopes at Chernobyl, causing the most severe health problems. So, yeah, iodine-131 and basically any radioactive iodine is some pretty nasty stuff. This is where potassium iodide comes in. In situations where radioactive iodine is expected to be encountered, people will often digest potassium iodide pills. These pills essentially fill your thyroid with the stable isotope of iodine, preventing it from taking in any other form of the element. These pills are often given to populations by their governments immediately following a nuclear disaster, and in some cases are distributed before incidents as a preventative measure. In fact, many Central European countries started to run low on their supply of iodine pills following threats made during the Russo-Ukrainian War. Now, as I alluded to before, potassium iodide pills aren't a prevent-all for radiation exposure. In fact, they're only effective against radioactive iodine and only protect your thyroid. As far as I'm aware, there aren't any other medical radiation preventative measures. It's thyroid and iodine or bust. All other radioactive isotopes will still be able to enter your system, and even radioactive iodine can still affect other parts of your body. So it stands that the best prevention method for anticipated radiation exposure lies in more physical methods. It would seem that shields and suits will do more work than any pill ever could, at least for now. And that answers the question of what exactly RadAway and Rad-X are. While there are a couple treatments for those who have been exposed to harmful radiation, there doesn't really exist a radiation prophylactic. While your thyroid can be protected against radioactive iodine, the rest of your body will still be susceptible to radioactive iodine as well as other radioactive isotopes. To me, this is quite surprising, as I for sure would have thought that a radiation preventative pill would be more practical than a radiation scrubbing transfusion. But hey, you learn something new every day. That's all from me today, folks. If you liked the video, be sure to share and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
Where did the memory say he was? The glowing sea? That doesn't make sense. No one goes there. Not even if they were desperate.
If we need to find Virgil, then I'm going after him.
If you're going to go, be prepared. You'll need some way to combat the radiation there. It's called the glowing sea for a reason.
I'll find a way to get through the rads. Don't worry.
Good luck, and be safe.